The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Blake Anderson, cryptographic economist.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on today's episode.
Theo Goodman from Haas Online.
Good evening, everyone.
Ian DiMartino from the Bitcoin Guidebook.
What's up, party people?
Jimmy Song, Bitcoin developer.
Good to see everybody. Hope for a great show.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network, reminding you to give us a thumbs up and a share. Moving on to issue 1. Issue 1, Bitcoin 1600, Ethereum 100. The price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and almost every other cryptocurrency continued to soar this week as a perfect storm of good news hit the cryptocurrency market, starting with the SEC, who is considering an appeal of the Winklevoss ETF, followed by the continuation of good news and buying pressure from Japan, who has discovered Bitcoin in a big way after their government's recent regulation paved the way for perhaps mainstream adoption. Blake Anderson, is this the parabolic rise, the mother of all upswings? Can the Bitcoin bull be stopped?
I love it. The Bitcoin bull. The bull is good. Well, Bitcoin is great because it has a monetary policy which decreases in speed. Ethereum's cool too, but Ethereum does not have a block reward taper off like Bitcoin does. So Ethereum is being produced at one rate and Bitcoin is being produced at another. All the cryptocurrencies going up are good, but Bitcoin has that really cool kind of deflationary model of distribution, but not distribution because that has negative connotation. It's kind of based on the rate at which people found gold when they came to the New World. At first it was really fast, then it tapered off and you had to blow up mountains and all kinds of crazy stuff. So what's cool about Bitcoin is that when things happen on a macro scale, it tends to go into deflationary spirals. It engenders the things that are required for a deflationary spiral to start to sit in. So we see, these different times where deflationary spirals happen. This, I think, was kicked off by good events in the crypto universe, and then a series of bad events in the legacy economy. I'm not going to go into the list of bad events that happened in the legacy economy right now, but in my story of the week, I'll go through some of those factors, which not only is Bitcoin doing well here, but it's getting, spin influenced by the legacy economy not doing so well. So I think that, we have the factors like the block halving and stuff that are going to engender these kinds of movements. I think that a lot of the dial back that we saw was a correction in the ETF hype. And I think that now that we have less people that are trying to go with a different implementation, that kind of people are associating, XT and all the previous versions now with unlimited, I think that we have less social resistance, and that just allows the natural scientific objective nature of Bitcoin to go up in value, which is pretty cool.
Bad for the legacy economy, good for Bitcoin. Theo Goodman.
This is just Bitcoin things. This is not the parabolic bull rally of all time as suggested by our host, Thomas Hunt. This is Bitcoin business as usual, where you have hype cycles, pumps and dumps, Judas candles, and people losing trading. This is not the mother of all rallies by any means, and part of it is due to the Taiwanese banks. The on and off ramps of many exchanges are clogged up, as in part caused part of the rise of the Bitcoin price in general. So I would not say this is the mother of all rises. This is just Bitcoin things.
Speaking of Bitcoin things, Theo, what did you think today of the $100 price swing? I saw that it hit maybe 1650, dropped back down to 1550, seems to be recovering. Do you think it was a major signal or anything like that?
I think that in any of the big rallies in the past of Bitcoin, you saw candles like that. So from a candle technical perspective, If you look back in 2013 and look at how just find some of those massive red candles, you'll see really similar moves if you look at it in a viewpoint. Of course, not exactly $100 perhaps, but just, in logarithmic terms and other terms, then you'll see really similar actions like that. So, it's just typical for the Bitcoin market. Yeah, Blake is right. It definitely does have to do with a lot of things, deflationary things going on in the world, uncertainty. Of course, that all plays into it somewhat. But I think a lot of it is just that this issue with the on and off ramps to a lot of the exchanges is not just Bitfinex. It's many exchanges, also with China, that's not solved. And when that's resolved, then the market will, readjust itself to whatever price it thinks is the right price.
Ian DiMartino, the price of Bitcoin keeps rising. Will it keep rising?
Well, I'm not really too technical with the price and stuff. I just go back to history, to every other major rise in Bitcoin. There's always been a big jump. Now, I don't know if this counts as, one of the next big ones, like the jump over $1, the jump over 30, the jump over 200, jump over 1,300, and all that stuff. But each of those were followed by a big drop, but this is only like what, $200, $400. So I don't know if this really counts as one of those big ones, but I would expect to see, the same thing we always see, which is another going down and then a steady growth back up, hopefully. Sometimes not, but I think both Blake's right about everything. This is what we've been expecting for a while. Deflationary nature of Bitcoin, the price should generally just continue to go up. The other thing is harder to get Bitcoin, and that is not a good thing, but that does cause the price to go up. The last big the rise over 1,000 in December coincided with Circle not taking Bitcoin. A lot of exchanges dropping, or a lot of Chinese exchanges holding on to withdrawals. So I think Bitcoin needs to be more accessible to people, and that will probably cause the price to go down, but that would be better for the overall market long term, because Bitcoin's for everybody, and once everybody's into it, then that deflationary nature is going to be a lot more powerful than it is when it's just like a mixture of deflationary and difficult to get, which is what I think we're seeing right now. I kind of hope I'm wrong on that, but we'll have to wait and see, as always.
So we're not there yet. We're going to need some more people. Jimmy Song, your thoughts on the Bitcoin price rise?
Well, the standard economic answer is that there's a lot of demand. Every exchange is like very slow to accept new users. By the way, I still haven't been approved by Gemini. I've been trying to get on there for over a month now. The Winklevoss ETF, I don't think has that much to do with it. That's not going to get solved. If you read the SEC decision from before, their reasoning was very sound. It was, we can't regulate this thing, so we're not going to let it on our platform. And I don't think that's going to change in any case. I think the big demand is coming from Japan and Korea. If you watch like CoinMarketCap or anything, the biggest exchanges where you're getting a lot of volume are in Korea and Japan. And that's a good thing, because culturally, those are two places that value saving quite a bit. And if they're saving into Bitcoins instead of their own currency or the US dollar or something, that means that it's starting to take hold as a store of value there, which is great. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more demand than supply. That's a very good thing. I mean, I believe that this is sort of like the long-term effects of the halving. This should have happened probably a year ago, but for whatever reason, it got delayed until now. And the fact that we're not generating as many coins as before is a good thing, because that means that there's less supply, more demand. Everything's been great. So that's my take on it.
Let's move on to the exit question. Force prediction, the price of Bitcoin this time next week. Blake Anderson.
I don't know if it's going to be higher or lower. You got to have long horizons, but let's just say a little bit higher.
Theo Goodman, going to give us that 888.
1 1 1 1. So 4 ones.
4 ones, ladies and gentlemen. Ian DiMartino. Still muted, keeping them in suspense.
I'm going to say exactly what it's at right now, 15.60 and 10 cents.
15, 60, and 10. It's like the Price is Right rules here. Jimmy Song.
Well, so this is something that I've been watching kind of closely. The number of followers I have on Twitter has been tracking the Bitcoin price for about the last 3 months. So given that, and I am right around 15.10 or so, I'm expecting it to be whatever my follower count is, which now that I've said that is probably going to be around 1,600 by this time next week.
Everybody go follow Jimmy. And I'm, of course, going to lead the pack. Let's go 1657. There we go. Moving on to the next issue. Issue 2, Coinbase adds Litecoin support. Litecoin, sometimes called the silver to Bitcoin's gold, has also seen dramatic price swings after it adopted segregated witness, the controversial Bitcoin scaling solution before Bitcoin. Adding Litecoin to the exchange has been discussed for years, but now they've finally done it. Does this say more about the changes in Litecoin or the changes in Coinbase? Theo Goodman.
I think it shows more the changes in Coinbase than Litecoin adapting SegWit or something like that. And I think they're going to continue down that road. I think you can just kind of look at what Kraken is doing. They've got a bunch of tokens, several altcoin pairs. They even have different currencies. Of course, GDAX and Coinbase is separate, so it's kind of a different thing. So with Coinbase having Litecoin, then I guess you could say your average person that is just getting into things could have the ability to buy Litecoin. And actually, it is really funny. So there is a video that I saw of a new crypto enthusiast, and they made a video. They go, "Oh, I made a new account and I signed up at Coinbase, and I thought I needed to buy one whole Bitcoin, but it was so expensive. So I bought one Ethereum instead. And wow, the price is really going up." So you could have, some people that decide one whole thing of something, because that is a certain psychological thing that humans have when you have one whole, and of course, one whole Litecoin is a lot cheaper than one whole Ethereum or one whole Bitcoin. So, hey, they might sell some Litecoins over it. And yeah, I think that they're just going to continue to expand. We might even see Coinbase have all kinds of tokens from ICOs and whatever other startup kind of stuff they're going to get into. I think that's definitely the direction that they're going.
Hopefully they can get enough money that they can buy a whole nation.
Theo, is it possible that people will switch from using Bitcoin to onboard into the altcoins or the ICOs? Will they start using Litecoin for this purpose?
I don't think they're going to use Litecoin for that purpose. I don't see a reason to do it. Litecoin sometimes could be an advantage to move from crypto exchange 1 to crypto exchange 2 as far as fees and speed are concerned versus Bitcoin or Ethereum. But that just all depends on the current situation and what you want to do and the fees and all that kind of stuff. So I have heard of people using it for that, just to move from A to B instead of Bitcoin. If the mempool is congested or they don't like the fees, that they've decided it's better to use Litecoin. I haven't heard of many people using Ethereum for that, but I think that it has been done. But most people I hear are actually using Litecoin for that, just to move from A to B and then go back into Bitcoin or another altcoin. So that could be one purpose, but like I said, I think Coinbase, not GDAX, Coinbase appeals more to your average user, new users, people that buy and hold, time spans, not the, Blake, what's that word you like to use a lot? People that think in super short term?
Ephemeral.
It's not for ephemeral people.
Ephemeral or ephemeral, there's debate on that, so I don't
And
want
people with long investment horizons, I think is one of your other ones. I would agree with that. It is possible to use Litecoin for that, but it would be more volatile, which sometimes could help you and sometimes could hurt you. And that's just adding more complexity to your trading behavior. We have 196 live viewers. Thanks to everybody giving us the thumbs up and spreading the word. Ian DiMartino, your thoughts about Litecoin being added to Coinbase?
Yeah, well, Litecoin's always been really great at marketing, and that's really what's gotten them to where they are. You know, marketing and an efficient development structure, and some legitimacy with Charlie Lee being the creator of it. Having it finally come to Coinbase after like years of speculation of that, I think its use has always been as a good hedge, and a hedge against the block size debate or all these other Bitcoin dramas. You could hedge with Ethereum, but Ethereum's going after a whole different thing. I always feel like if Bitcoin collapsed and just like went away because of all these issues, Ethereum would continue going on with its enterprise stuff, and maybe the more crypto anarchist people that are more interested in things that the banks aren't as much interested in, would more navigate towards Litecoin. So I think it's good to see that. It's good for people to get an easy hedge while still following the same like cryptographic principles that Bitcoin has. I think it will help Litecoin and everything like that. But I don't think Coinbase is going to get into all these different coins. I just don't see that as their game, man. Like, there's too many scam coins, and they're too legitimate, and they're too connected with the financial institutions. They had their own pay coin thing and be a shit show with the regulators. So I think they're going to be very cautious about it. Maybe they'll add another currency, but I think if they're going to add more than one more currency, there's going to be another currency taken away first.
Jimmy Song, your thoughts on Coinbase and Litecoin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it says anything about Coinbase or Litecoin. It just says more about user demand, right? Coinbase, first and foremost, is a business. They need to make money, and this is a good revenue driver, getting a lot of people to trade. And I think the first day they had some ridiculous volume on Litecoin that was on their exchange. And you got to remember, like in the exchange world, Poloniex is just killing it right now. They have higher volumes than anybody else on almost everything. And that's largely because they have a lot of variety, and they have a lot of different coins that people can go and trade and buy. And that's a good thing, right? Like other companies are seeing that and saying, hey, you know what? I want some of those profits. I want some of what they got. So that's what they're doing, is they added Litecoin. It is kind of funny though how long it took. It kind of reminds me of how Mt. Gox took like forever, and they said, hey, we're gonna add Litecoin, and then they went bankrupt. So at least it didn't take that long, but yeah, who knows? Yeah, users seem to like Litecoin for whatever reason. Much of it seems kind of speculative to me. I mean, like, a scaling problem right now. They have they have the same 1 megabyte block, but it comes 4 times as fast. So they have 4 times the capacity at any 10-minute period. So I'm not really sure why they need SegWit. I mean, I guess it's useful for Lightning Network and cross-chain atomic swaps and things of that nature. But I mean, yeah, it's I don't think there's enough demand to test it for the scaling part. But I mean, it is nice to prove out the technology. It's a good test bed, and I think a lot of people are sort of rewarding them for that and sort of using it as a hedge against, if Bitcoin doesn't get that sort of scaling solution, then maybe Litecoin has a lot more capacity. So there's like a bus 4 times bigger down the road that we can use if our card gets too full, that sort of thing. So that's my thought on it.
Maybe they needed the scaling solution so they'd have the scaling problem. They just weren't there yet. And it was funny to see Litecoin take so long to be added to Coinbase, especially since Charlie Lee works there. To see Ethereum added before, it must have been particularly painful. Blake Anderson, your thoughts?
I mean, absolutely. I was just about to say the same thing with Charles Lee and Litecoin and stuff. People are always like, you got to find some kind of an alt that still has developers and interests or whatever. Well, having, like one of the lead engineers, or I think he's the lead engineer at Coinbase, able to comment about the community, and having him around has been extremely valuable. And like everybody was saying, like, is there a dire need for this to be adopted on SegWit? They don't have the problem yet, but if they have more tight consensus, which it looks like they did, and they were able to get it through, I think that does nothing but draw positive attention to them, and that's good for their market price overall. Litecoin was talked about originally as being like I talked with Adam Kokesh about this in person a long time ago, and he was very, very confident that Bitcoin was going to be MySpace and that Litecoin was going to be Facebook. And then we got into this kind of muddy debate about the difference between SHA hashing algorithms and script hashing algorithms, and about how memory intensive operations doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be able to make an application specific integrated circuit to be able to go ahead and tackle that. Eventually that did end up happening with Litecoin to some extent, whereas somebody made a memory heavy supercomputer, and then a lot of the hashing power was centralized in, I think, one room for a Litecoin. It's not a killer criticism, and there's some mining centralization issues with lots of different currencies, but I think that even with any of those problems that Litecoin had, they were very, very transparent and vocal about it. At least Charlie himself was, and there was kind of somebody in charge to look to cut through a lot of the stuff that maybe Bitcoin PR is like, well, who do we ask? Who's the expert? So I think that a mad respect to Charlie for helping to guide so many people towards using his coin as a test network. And I think that I'm really, really shocked that they accepted it after Ethereum. I have to kind of go against Ian DiMartino and say that I think that the risk of systemic failure in Litecoin is way, way less than the risk of systemic failure in Ethereum. Not that I'm really worried about either, but I think that it's good to have two different currencies that you can use on Coinbase or wherever to be able to jump from one to the other without having to go back to the dollar. So I think this is positive for Coinbase. Do I think they're going to continue to add more altcoins? I hope that if they do it very, very, very slowly and sparingly, and with a high degree of criticism. I don't know if that'll come or not, but I have a feeling that it will. I think that if Charles Lee has a lot of input there, that he's probably not going to want a whole bunch of lucky 7 coin and shit being traded on Coinbase. So those are my 2 cents.
I don't think I mentioned anything about the viability of either of the two coins. I was just saying one's more favored by the financial elite and corporate structures that turn me off, but I wasn't speaking to either way of which one's going to survive itself. It's just which one do I want to use, Bankcoin or something more cryptographically I guess sound.
And it is worth noting, as we said before, that Litecoin has the unique position of having a creator. Charles Lee is a public person. Satoshi Nakamoto is a private mystery. So it is a big difference, and one that many people might find attractive. Let's move on to the exit question. Which altcoin or token will be added to Coinbase next? Will Coinbase continue their conservative strategy, or are they another Cryptsy in the making? Theo Goodman.
That's a good question. Wow, I do not know which one. I'd say I'm gonna go for
Rare
some
Pepe?
kind. Yeah, Rare Pepe. Yeah, Pepe Cash. I'm gonna go for Pepe Cash.
Your fans are gonna come kill you if you don't start stepping it up, man.
Yeah, well, I've been disciplined for saying Pepe Cash too much. So I'm going to go for Pepe Cash, and that is, technically speaking, goes together with my other concept that I said it's going to be a token of some kind is going to be on the site, because that is what's hot right now. Just like Zoolander, it's so hot. ICOs and tokens. Yes, Coinbase will add something. Yes, they are slow to add. That is true. Conservative in that sense, but the market wants choice. They will add something.
Spoiler alert, the DAO token would be a bad choice. Ian DiMartino.
Like I said, I don't think, them adding something is on the horizon. I think if we look maybe 3-4 years down the line, if I have to pick something, I'm going to say maybe they'll make their own coin, Coinbase coin.
Excellent pick. I was definitely thinking that's a possibility. Jimmy Song.
Well, they've had a lot of experts come into their headquarters and talk about their coin and so on. I'm gonna pick sort of a dark horse. I'm gonna, and that's not a pun, but Monero. I think they'll integrate that at some point. Charlie Lee has more influence, maybe Decred, but I think it'll be more Monero.
A privacy-focused altcoin on Coinbase. There goes their banking relationship.
Yeah, I have a
Blake-
hard time seeing that because of that.
Yeah, me too. Blake Anderson, your thoughts?
They're gonna go ahead and implement Lucky 7 coin, and it's gonna be fantastic. Zoolander was mentioned earlier, so I think that adding Lucky 7 coin to Coinbase will go as well for them as a free gasoline fight accident.
That would be wallet emptying fantastic. Unfortunately, no one on the group is correct. The answer is Augur. The answer is Augur. We were looking for Augur. And yes, Coinbase will continue to chase Crypsy and Polynex, but they'll always be one spot behind, letting Polynex take the early, risky money while Coinbase shows up for the late, small money. That's not how you do it. Moving on to issue 3, Bitcoin Dominance Index. The Bitcoin Dominance Index, or the inverse of the combined altcoin market capitalization chart, has been falling rapidly since March of 2017, seemingly in a downtrend since the creation of altcoins. Is Bitcoin losing its dominance a bad thing? Ian DiMartino.
In general, I don't think competition is ever a bad thing. You mentioned there's less altcoins being created now than before, and I think that's good because we had way too many altcoins being created, 2 years ago. But when you look at some of the coins that are taking its place, like Ethereum, there's reason to be concerned because of I didn't get into Bitcoin to jump on Bankcoin, but I mean, competition's a good thing. We get more. You see that with the block size debate, just one little problem can cause a lot of issues in the crypto world, where it seems like everything just grinds to a halt when two sides can't agree on what seems to me to be a pretty simple issue. So when we have other development communities that are a little small, a little focused, see Litecoin add SegWit, shows them how easy it is to add it. The concept of SegWit and Bitcoin's been around for a long time now, maybe a year or so, probably 2-3 years. So it's nice to see some competition. It's nice to see some smaller development communities that are maybe a little bit more efficient than our overgrown, bloated one. But I am a little bit worried about the kind of coins that happen to be taking its place at this moment.
Jimmy Song, your thoughts on Bitcoin dominance?
Well, altcoins always have a heyday when the price is going up, right? Like I don't know if you guys remember the last pump, but Litecoin used to be like $40. Like people forget that, right? Like if you bought at the peak,
Litecoin on Mt. Gox, Midas trading engine, hold till 40. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you still would be losing money if you bought at the peak, whereas if you bought Bitcoin at any time in its history, you're making money right now. And they all tend to crash much harder whenever there's a crash off a peak on Bitcoin as well. So that's what I fully expect. I mean, I don't know the future, but that's not my expertise, but that seems to be the pattern. I don't think Bitcoin's losing dominance as much as there's like a lot of curiosity about alts, and I have issues with that particular chart of Bitcoin dominance because it's based on market cap. And a lot of the market cap for something like the Gnosis token is that it's only like 5% of it is liquid. So, there's a huge inflation there. Same thing for Ripple, same thing for a lot of these coins where, they have tiny liquidity, have a huge market cap. And, just because like I sold one of a million shares, but only 10 are liquid, and, that doesn't really make sense to me. And I think Zcash sort of was like the start of this altcoin bubble when they first came out, and that dominance index has been gained to a large degree. And I don't think it's quite as Bitcoin is still very dominant. It just doesn't seem that way because of these inflated market caps. That's my opinion on it.
Blake Anderson, your thoughts?
Bitcoin dominance. I mean, Bitcoin is basically like, it has a very similar relationship with other cryptocurrencies as the US dollar does with international trade. If you want to trade internationally, you go to the reserve currency, which is the dollar, then you interact from there. So Bitcoin being able to be that for most of the cryptocurrency, for most of the altcoins, basically means that it's an on or an off ramp. So what'll happen kind of loosely is that like the big oak tree that is Bitcoin has all these offshoot roots of all these different alts, and then they'll start to swell, and then when people want to cash out any value or earnings that they've made, they'll usually go back through Bitcoin, and either they'll just move back to Bitcoin and take earnings, or they'll go back to Bitcoin and then they'll cash out fiat, and then they'll go on from there. But a lot of people end up cashing out from these altcoins, going back to Bitcoin, and then maybe being a little bit conservative with what they reinvest. It's not usually all going back and out. So it's almost like Bitcoin is like this oak tree, which is sucking up a lot of these value systems, I drink your milkshake style. Now that when that specific advantage will change is when there's more of these other altcoins, which are directly tradable for value and things like that. But for right now, Bitcoin has a very strong position like that. Also, because of the deflationary nature of Bitcoin and all these other things being kind of derivative-esque of that chain, makes it so that the rest of the panel is correct. If Bitcoin has a big spike down or whatever, expect to see the quote derivatives or the altcoins of that same system with that same on-ramp to be heavily affected. So Bitcoin's dominance as a percentage, I mean, this is a new area. There's going to be continually more different coins that do different things, and that's going to eat up quote the dominance as it's listed right now. But I don't think that we are close to moving over to some new kind of reserve cryptocurrency. I don't see those moves coming anytime soon.
If the US dollar had 100% dominance of the US dollar market, would that be a good thing for the US dollar? Blake?
Ask me one more time.
If the US dollar had 100% dominance of the US dollar market, would that be a good thing?
Would it be? I mean, no, dominance and monopoly are not a good thing. Am I understanding?
I think you mean the Forex market. Then it wouldn't be the U.S. dollar market.
If there was only one currency, it was only the US dollar. You couldn't trade with any of the other currencies. I think it would be a less of a market, right? Where the Bitcoin, as Bitcoin's growing, these other currencies are growing. They're trading back and forth. They're creating a market, is what I would say from that question.
Differences in individuality, even if they're small or generalistic, are what causes the rubber to meet the road in free markets. And navigating these differences and having choices is extremely important. Monopolizing almost anything is almost always a bad idea.
So Theo Goodman, and as this panel of Bitcoin maximalists continue, are we all rooting for 100% Bitcoin dominance, or is this an okay statistic to lose?
Oh, of course, it's clear that because of the high transaction fees and the inability of the core development team to do any kind of innovation whatsoever, all of the trading volume is flowing into altcoins. Just look at the dominance chart. It's clear as day to see. The market has spoken and things need to change immediately. No, never mind. Just as a reminder, Max Kaiser set a Litecoin price target of $50 on his show in 2013, and it hit $49 something exactly on BTCE. That was a moment in crypto history that all people should remember, and I do not know the episode number, but is definitely one to watch. If you have never watched it, it's definitely a moment in crypto history. So what one has to ask is, to what Blake and some of the others have said about this kind of so-called crypto reserve currency in that sense, that is definitely somewhat true, because where does the volume come from all of these alternative cryptocurrencies? Where did all of the profits come from that people are willing to risk in buying all of these altcoins? Well, it came from profits from Bitcoin going up. Where do you think it came from? For the most part, sure. And let's take a quick look at the volume. Are the volumes on the USD pairs, on the altcoin to Swiss franc pairs, on the altcoin to euro pairs? No, all the volume is on the altcoin to Bitcoin pair, of course. If that's not dominance, what else is it? The main thing that the altcoins are traded against are Bitcoin, of course, not US dollar, not another Bitcoin. Well, there are other markets. There are, altcoin Ethereum markets, there are altcoin Monero markets, there are altcoin Tether markets, that they do exist. A clear minority in volume to the altcoin Bitcoin markets. So that is the main market, and that does not show a lack of dominance, perhaps quite the opposite. And definitely I want to echo that as far as the market cap is concerned. I mean, how hard would it be for us here? See what we're 1, 2, 3, 5 people. How hard would it be for us to manage to pump the market cap of a coin, of an ICO token that we release ourselves, and we have, I don't know, 10 Bitcoin, 20 Bitcoin, 30 Bitcoin? How hard would it be for us to buy and sell our own token, to pump the market cap of it and to get it really high so we're at the top and everyone thinks it's the best thing ever? That would be really difficult and would take a lot of brain work for anyone that has been into crypto for any amount of time. So definitely, Bitcoin is losing major dominance here.
Theo is right. It's a misleading chart. It's a chart of the market cap dominance, not of the trading or the volume or the usage. Exit question. Is there an altcoin out there that will beat Bitcoin? Has it been made? Has it not been made yet? Or will it never be made? Ian DiMartino.
Well, you can look at the usual suspects of Ethereum and Litecoin, and I think they both stand a good chance. If more financial institutions get into Ethereum and it just becomes this dominant thing where you can go to your bank and use Ethereum to send money to China or something, I think, and then plus you have all the ICO and all the smart contracts and all that kind of stuff. I could see that taking over. That'd be really disappointing to me because we'd have this, I think, pretty easily traceable currency with no unlimited inflation and all this stuff. And so it sounds a lot like fiat to me, just in a virtual world with smart contracts. But, and then Litecoin, maybe if Bitcoin just collapsed because of the core developers are unable to get it together. But in that case, I think we'll see like some Bitcoin rebirth coin or something that people will like, but who knows? Other than that, I would think there'd have to be something that is just so new and so innovative that we can't even like really comprehend it right now, because the 5 of us aren't smart enough, and it's going to take another Satoshi Nakamoto to come along and solve some major problem that is holding Bitcoin back right now.
I just wanted to jump in really quick because I was going to touch on what you said before, but I had forgotten. And I think that there's a lot of people that agree with you that they think that the Bitcoin development is too slow. But Bitcoin is a very, very large production, like in use, material value transfer system. So in terms of how we address change management policy in that system, we have to be very, 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 very careful. So that you have like Fortune 25 change management risk protocol procedures, which are very, very, very slow. And there's a lot of layers that sign off on it. Then at the very other end of it, you have, publishing closed binaries in the, last minute attempt to be like, oh, we can do things quickly. And, we need to be a lot closer to extremely stringent risk management standards with Bitcoin than coins with a smaller market cap or even with other things. And I think that in terms of Ethereum is cool, and I love the E20 token and stuff, and how you can make a customizable shitcoin and raise with that. But I think that a lot of the use cases that are more advanced for Ethereum are going to require that code to be forked down, to be forked away, so that the value proposition part of the code is not sunk by all of the attack vectors that are latent in the scope creep nature of how it's been programmed. So I think that it's very, very, very common to hear that the Bitcoin core team is too slow, but we really, really, really need to make sure that we are taking a full considerative view of risk management scope and make sure that we don't do anything that is going to be deadly or a killer problem or a zero-day exploit in terms of this large production material value transfer system that's Bitcoin. So I understand where you're coming from, but I think that it needs to be balanced a little bit by what the technologists' risk management standards would kind of say about the same thing.
I 100% agree with what you're saying in principle, and that we do need to 100% take we're talking about billions of dollars. We got to take a very cautious approach. That's why, for the most part with the block size debate, I want to just let the developers hash that out themselves, because they're for the most part smarter than me, and but what's discouraging to me is that there seems to be no progress at all. How incremental when it comes to the debate. There seems to be no, like, it reminds me of Congress in a way, where there just seem to be talking back and forth, and nothing seemed to be getting done. That's what I like to see. I don't need to see bigger blocks or SegWit or anything get implemented tomorrow. I just want to see some people agree and negotiate and see some progress, somewhere, of things that you see a lot of different bits going to Bitcoin development mailing lists, and then it just kind of fade away because it just falls into an argument, and then we're on to the next argument, and then no one's even talking about the previous argument anymore, and nothing's been added or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely agree.
See your perspective. I feel like it's more that people are not aware of the continuing progress that's being made in other areas on Bitcoin, and how the stop in terms of block size is because there's kind of been a decision on one side that we don't want to do that yet. We want to do the order of operations wherein we have the more tight code first with SegWit, and then we can do a block size increase after that, instead of increasing block size and then doing other things. So I can see your point though, and I think that a lot of people agree with that, but I don't want to take up too much time here.
Now, I was going to make the Congress comparison as well. Go ahead, Ian. Yeah.
Someone mentioned Max Kaiser earlier, and he did call the Litecoin thing, I guess. But I just want to take time out real quick to point out that that guy promoted a shit ton of shit coins on his TV show back in the day. So just like take a quick minute to say fuck Matt Kaiser, and that's all.
Quark is the one that comes to mind. If you ever heard of Quark coin, go look that one up. But no, I was going to agree with you, Ian, on the congressional comparison, except that I was going to laud the comparison, that I would say Bitcoin development goes slowly like Congress to protect the people. Like many have said, it's like flying an airplane and fixing it while we're flying it, and they're working on keeping it in the air, not necessarily increasing the speed of the airplane. It's a very difficult job, and we're just going to have to see how it goes.
We need to storm the cockpit and demand the plane fly faster. I mean, when I fly and travel, that's always the best way to go about it.
And we need more snacks. Let's go to Jimmy Song. Is the altcoin that will unseat Bitcoin? Does it exist? Will it exist? Go ahead.
Well, so first of all, I gotta say, like, there's a lot of Bitcoin development going on, and if you don't know about it, it's because they're, the developers are working on the code and not necessarily marketing the fact that they're working on the code. All sorts of things that are related to scaling, like around the edges, to make things transfer faster, to make things work a lot better. And they're all in the GitHub repository. You can see all the commits that get handled, added. It's more secure. It's a lot easier to do certain things in the code, and taking out useless things or security vulnerabilities. Lots of things happening. I don't think it's fair to say that it's Bitcoin development is stuck in any way, because it's not. There's a ton of stuff going on. The reason why we're stuck in this scaling debate is because consensus is hard, right? And that's okay. That's okay. That's part of the design. And we made the analogy to Congress earlier. And the Congress was actually designed so that they wouldn't get most things done. It's supposed to be really, really difficult to pass something. And like the you have to have a really good reason to change the status quo. And that's kind of the way that Bitcoin has developed. It is, the status quo is doing fine, right? We hit a very large number per Bitcoin this week, and that's a good thing. Stability is a very good property for a store of value. Anyway, to answer the question, will any Litecoin actually overtake Bitcoin? My theory on sort of altcoins is that their market cap is closely corresponding with the quality of the developers that they have. And if I think, and the reason, and that makes sense, right? Because if you have really good developers, they're going to be able to create features that may one day be super necessary and be able to overtake Bitcoin. So I have three candidates, and I have massive respect for these three coins and their development teams in particular. First is Zcash. I know Zuko. extremely creative coin that's very privacy focused, obviously, and they do some amazing stuff with zero knowledge proofs and things like that. Another one is Monero, another privacy based coin. They have confidential transactions, all sorts of things like that. I don't know if either of those qualities by themselves are enough to overtake Bitcoin, but the development teams on each of those are good enough that you could possibly see them develop, you know, a killer feature that Bitcoin may not be able to do in time. And the final one is Decred. The developers there are the ones behind the BTCD, which is the Golang version of the Bitcoin client. Extremely impressive developers. They come from the old OpenBSD, you know, school of coding. You know, a lot of them are contributors to OpenBSD. They really know security. They really know that's the you know, how to sort of do a lot of complex cryptography. And one of the interesting things, and I think this is the reason why Charlie Lee pumps Decred all the time, is that they have a governance model that's very different than Bitcoin's, and that you know, allows the community to sort of have a voice in changes to the protocol, which may or may not be something that overtakes it. That said, all of these coins have less than a 1% chance of ever overtaking Bitcoin. That's my personal opinion.
If you want more community involvement, I'll have to go find my UASF hat. Let's go to Blake Anderson. Any altcoin gonna beat Bitcoin?
Yeah, they're all going to beat Bitcoin. The experiment is over. Bitcoin was good while it lasted. Pats on back all around. I think, what did Hearn say? The experiment has resolved. I think that's probably the best way to put it. The experiment is resolved. It's going to be beaten. No, I'm probably going to catch some flack for this. But aside from motorcycles going by my house, I think that Bitcoin is pretty close to one of the optimal methods by which we can instantiate a value system. I mean, it goes back through human psychology, and it's like, look, gold went up pretty fast. Let's try to mimic that as much as we can. Let's not try to go faster than that. Let's not try to go slower than that. That worked in the past. Let's do that. So I think that the way that blocks propagate, the timing and all that, and the monetary policy make the implementation of Bitcoin such that it's really, really, really hard to be like, oh, I just, you know, completely improved on a whole bunch of stuff. Things can be different fundamentally from Bitcoin, like Litecoin has a faster block time and stuff like that. But, you know, undermining the fundamental value proposition of Bitcoin it's not very easy. So there's nothing that would lead me to believe, like, you know, let's invest in A, B, or C in case that's going to happen soon. I'm not saying divest of all altcoins or don't, you know, make ephemeral gains or day trade with altcoins. I'm just saying that this is the way that I see things playing out.
Theo Goodman, better than Bitcoin?
Consensus has said that Ethereum will take over Bitcoin. That is their mission. That's what they're going to do. Ethereum is going to take over Bitcoin.
And the answer is no one had it. It was FedCoin. FedCoin was the right answer. The market cap of FedCoin will rise higher than the market cap of Bitcoin because it will be given to everyone who already owns dollars. They'll already have the implements for FedCoin. There'll be two coins. There'll be the corporate federal coin that you use for all of your mainstream transactions. Then there'll be the Bitcoin that you use for your other transactions. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. We can't talk about the future yet. We're not even there yet. They've only made 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Let's move on to issue 4, Bitcoin scaling. Forgotten? The recent drama of Bitcoin scaling has all but been wiped from the news, and more importantly, the agenda, as the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has exploded, and no one can remember anything but how many coins they have and how they wish they had more. How does the recent price explosion affect SegWit, Bitcoin Unlimited, Bitmain, and the rest of the Bitcoin scaling drama? Jimmy Song.
Well, price has an interesting effect on everybody. First of all, it relieves pressure to do things, right? Because everyone has more money, and they're not like under pressure to go and do things. Like the most creative things that people do tend to come when they're under a lot of pressure, when they have no other choice. Necessity really is the mother of invention. Right now, Bitmain and lots of other miners, they're making money hand over fist right now. They have a lot of resources at their disposal. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of devs obviously have a lot of Bitcoin. They're invested in it. So they have, they can ride this out too. I imagine companies like Blockstream or any of the exchanges, they keep some of their investment in Bitcoin. So that's appreciating. That means that they have a lot more money. They have a longer runway. They're not forced to do anything either. So, in another sense, like the devs and the miners seem to both be retrenching right now and trying to look for another strategy, whether that includes some sort of like give and take. I have no idea. But one thing is certain, and that is we have way more scaling drama to come. There's going to be way, way more of that before the end of the year. So that's my take on it.
It sounds like the Christmas Day during World War I when they all played soccer and then they went back in the trenches and killed each other. It was an awful story. Blake Anderson, your thoughts on Bitcoin scaling?
Jacques Noel. I kind of said what I thought about Bitcoin scaling before. It's an issue that is packed with risk management and change management considerations. So Bitcoin is working fine right now. People that want to criticize the way that it's working are free to use Litecoin or altcoins. And once we have solutions that are thoroughly vetted and tested, I think they'll be implemented as they are needed. And I'm not all that concerned. I know this isn't the best example to draw or parallel to draw, but when there's like a debt crisis and the government is going to shut down and stuff like that, usually they don't solve it until like it's absolutely necessary, the nth hour. So I don't know, maybe that's just the way that some money systems are. Maybe Bitcoin will emulate that pretty closely. Who knows? But I feel positive.
And then, of course, solving it is really just the most popular decision of all government. Kick the can down the road. Theo Goodman.
Okay, well, if you have any kind of media publication whatsoever, what's going to get you more clicks and traffic? Bitcoin all-time high, Bitcoin higher than gold, Bitcoin going to the moon, or scaling, they're not getting along. Bitcoin is dying because they can't do anything. Bitcoin is not as fast as Visa. Bitcoin for the 100th article in a row. So which one is going to get you more clicks and what is going to feed the echo chamber more? Which one? Well, of course, Bitcoin all-time high. Bitcoin's price is too high. Bitcoin is going to crash. Bitcoin is the most performing currency ever known to mankind. Bitcoin to the moon. Bitcoin price crashes. People get wrecked. All that kind of dramatic stuff is what's going to get attention, and that's why we're hearing about it. And that's why you're hearing less about whatever. The so-called scaling and which is just ongoing development churns on the whole time. It didn't stop. People are still working on that. People are still programming. People are still, sure, people have a little bit of a break. Maybe they do one more party than normal, but people are still working on all this stuff. Just because you don't hear about any more drama or people don't care about the drama anymore, that stuff is not happening, and there's still plenty of development going on.
It's an excellent point, Theo. And while I was preparing this show, I was searching for headlines about Bitcoin. Everyone has written about the price going up, and it's all the same vapid article with the percentage gain, and it used to be this, and it's all designed to make everybody feel bad, like you're stupid for not buying Bitcoin or for selling or whatever happened. But yeah, it's all the same article. Ian DiMartino, your thoughts on Bitcoin scaling?
Well, Theo, you just got to learn how to write a good headline. I mean, you want to do a scaling debate, you just got to say, Civil War and Bitcoin is breaking its transaction, like that headline was written a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of those sites got big hits for it. But other than that, I more or less agree with what you're saying. I was complaining about development thing, and maybe it's just this whole scaling thing just getting to me, after covering it for what seems like forever and nothing significant going on. I haven't been covering the smaller developments, I guess, so that's on me. But I don't know. A rising tide lifts all boats, and so this makes everyone feel good. But you know, once the price goes back down, I think we'll be bickering again. And I think the price will go back down. You know, once a bunch of people try to use Bitcoin and it goes slow and then they get rid of it, or, you know, whatever's going to happen, you know, then we'll start fighting over scale and debate again, and be all these Democrat, Republican, Roger Ver, Vlad, you know, just like going at each other. It's what we're used to, you know, but I don't think any of that's ever going to stop Bitcoin long term. You know, sometimes I feel a little down on it, but ultimately I do think that it's an unstoppable monster, and as long as we're careful, like Blake said, with risk management and everything like that, I think, you know, there will be a lot of down points, but we will always be going up long term.
I agree, and it does seem like the scaling debate's gone on and on and on, but as we've discussed it here so many times, there is a possibility that one side is a cartel and that they're not negotiating fairly and they're not really discussing technical issues. But we've discussed this over and over again.
But you mean maybe that guy that went and visited the CIA right before Satoshi disappeared? You mean maybe that?
No, I think we're more concerned about the miners monopolizing the market, running ASIC boost software that gives them a 30% advantage over the others. And I mean, I get it, you know, that's awesome. You want to keep that. But there's something to be said. If you have that, every day that you mine with that is a big win. So you just need to stall. So there's something to be said about this third way of just stalling the debate as a win if you're getting that every day. So let's move on to the exit question. Long range prediction. SegWit will be added to Bitcoin before the end of the year. Yes or no? Jimmy Saw.
No. The only way it happens is if we have consensus. That's the way the whole system is designed, and we don't have consensus right now. Much more likely is that we'll start to see off-chain solutions start to get more popular, whether it's Lightning-like solutions that don't require SegWit or something like that. I believe those will come on more as the year goes on and there's more demand for blockchain space or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're no closer than we were 2 years ago, and that's okay. That's okay, because I think most people use Bitcoin as a store of value and not a medium of exchange.
Wait, I thought you told me that. I mean, I know you were talking about other commitments other than you know, SegWit and bigger blocks, but you told me that like things are progressing, and now you say 2 years, nothing's progressed, man.
No, why? I said that the scaling debate hasn't progressed, but there's always development going on, and they're sort of preparing for. I mean, developers have clearly put out a solution in the form of SegWit. The miners aren't accepting, so whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing is for the market to decide.
And even after the value of Litecoin goes up 5 times, we can't get SegWit on Bitcoin. All right, Blake Anderson, your thoughts on SegWit?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, even when you have control over the whole system, like when you're doing like Fortune 25 math-based security project management, stuff takes a long time to implement. Even if it's been going well on testnet for a long time, you do all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I think that it won't be this year either in terms of being activated, and I don't think that that's a bad thing or like a risk, or this is some big issue that like the peanut gallery and novice people need to be like, oh, we need to go and charge the cockpit and have the plane go faster. So I think that, you know, being extremely careful with change management is absolutely paramount. And since that's what's being observed, it's all good in the hood.
And just a reminder of how slow some of these financial companies move. A lot of their mainframes still run COBOL. There's actually a shortage of COBOL programmers. Everyone knows in COBOL you use tabs instead of commas or spaces because you have to line them up for the punch card readers. That's classic. Let's go to Theo Goodman. Your thoughts on Bitcoin SegWit?
SegWit's already implemented. Litecoin, altcoin number 2, altcoin.
Vertcoin had
several coins that have there's several. SegWit's activated. It's the wrong question. SegWit is already activated this year. Will SegWit be activated on Bitcoin? May. Probably not. Just Bitcoin things happen. So forced answer, wrong question.
Ian DiMartino, finish it up. SegWit by the end of the year?
Well, clearly not. I mean, listening to everyone else here, you can tell the debate's going slow. I would just like to see some progress in the debate, at least. I guess miners aren't accepted, and they're less of a group to be able to directly talk to, because they're just so many people and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'd just like to see some progress by the end of the year. That would be a win, I think.
There's no hope and there's no progress. SegWit will not be activated this year. Moving on to predictions or story of the week. Blake Anderson, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Yeah, I guess story of the week, some econometrics to make you cringe. Let's look at how the legacy economy is doing during all this stuff. I have a couple of different points. It'll be a fun game. How many points do you think I'm going to read off? Number one, the weak economic growth in the first quarter was a continuation of a long-term trend. Obama was the only president in history not to have a single year when the U.S. economy grew by at least 3%. And it's now in the fourth time in the last 6 quarters when economic growth has been less than 2% on an annualized basis. Number two, consumer spending, which drives the U.S. economy more than anything else at this point in the U.S., is tapped out. CBS News has reported that 3/4 of all U.S. consumers have to scramble to cover their living costs each month. Number three, the job market appears to be slowing. The U.S. economy only added about 98,000 jobs in March, and that was approximately half of what most analysts were expecting. Number four, the flow of credit appears to be slowing as well. In fact, this is the first time since the last recession when there has been no growth for commercial and industrial lending for at least 6 months. Number five, last month, U.S. factory output dropped at the fastest pace that we have witnessed in more than 2 years. Number six, we are in the midst of the worst retail apocalypse in U.S. history. The number of retailers that has filed for bankruptcy has already surpassed the total number for the entire year of 2016, and at the current rate will smash the previous all-time record for store closings in a single year by nearly 2,000. Number seven, the auto industry is also experiencing a great deal of stress. This has been the worst year for U.S. automakers since the last recession, 2008. And 7 out of the 8 largest fell short of their sales projections in March. I have tons and tons and tons and tons of metrics like this, but one of the most important ones is number 11. The student loan bubble is starting to bust, and it's being reported that 27% of all student loans are already in default, and some analysts expect for this number to go even higher. This is a problem because basically student loan debt is non-dischargeable debt, and non-dischargeable debt means that it cannot be dismissed under bankruptcy. The way that this country, the United States of America, is set up is that we have bankruptcy laws. We do not want people to be crushed with all the blood out of them and then to be killed. We want to have some kind of a system wherein you can be like, okay, that person's underwater, they're being strangled. Let's try to give them some leeway. Let's try to replant that turnip and let's try to get them to grow again so that we can have, shit go on. Everybody enjoyed that for a long, long time, but now all of this easy student loan money is going out there under the expectation that it doesn't matter how much you go into debt. As soon as you get that piece of paper, you're going to be a millionaire and it's not going to be an issue. Now we have 27% of student debt holders in full-blown default, and bankruptcy is not going to discharge these things. So what we have is people that are deciding, let's underpin the economy on this bad system wherein we put everything on the shoulders of the youngest power consumers around. And like a power consumer would refer to somebody who's actually spending lots of money, not like a young 14-year-old consumer that's buying a piece of candy, but college purchase is a huge investment, and the college bubble and non-dischargeable debt is absolutely despicable. So of all the reasons that this deflationary spiral hit Bitcoin, some of those reasons include things like not being satisfied with what the dollar and the derivative systems underneath are doing and going towards, whether it be non-dischargeable debt or warfare and things like that. Now, I'm not saying, go out and take a debt for college and you should never, ever have to pay it back and that, debt is a joke. I'm not trying to say that at all. But I am trying to say that trying to pin all of this onto people without the ability to discharge this debt is an extremely disgusting thing that I think conservatives and liberals both should look at and say, perhaps this should be redesigned or re-engineered, because to pin everything on a 20-year-old seems like an extremely irresponsible way to solve any issue.
And we hate to say I told you so when so many people are hurt and affected, but we told you so.
I also want to say I have zero college debt. I don't have any debt. I'm not speaking of my own interest here. I don't have debt.
Every time they say they're going to forgive the loans, I wish I'd taken tons more. Theo,
I don't know about that. I don't want to encourage that. But.
Let's bring back debtors' prisons, man. That's what I want.
Many fine books have been written in prison. Theo Goodman, your story of the week or a prediction. Go ahead, Theo.
Wow. Well, now I'm just totally, into this whole thing about debt, and I wonder if the future will bring the year of the Jubilee of wrecked. But it will be one of those, I think. The story is by far having to do with Bitcoin, modes of transportation, and that is all about car talk. You've got to check out the latest episode with Trade with Dave, dropping massive amounts of knowledge about forks in the road and how that relates to our journey in the crypto sphere. BitcoinCarTalk.com.
It's a great episode. They also had a Rare Pepe makeover. I wasn't that impressed. I've seen kitchens that have bathtubs in them. I think that's much cooler. Ian DiMartino, prediction or story of the week.
I don't have either of those. What I want to talk about instead, while everyone's, in the Bitcoin world is flush with cash, I want to just remind everyone that there's a young man in prison right now thanks to the actions of 2 corrupt agents and the government's fear of what our cryptographic currency can do. Of course, I'm talking about Ross Ulbricht. So while we all have a little extra money, I'd just like to ask everyone to go donate to the Free Ross campaign.
It's a very kind sentiment. People can find out more at freeross.org or something like that, I think. Jimmy Song, go ahead.
All right. So earlier this week, there was a blog post written by someone saying that Sean Spicer tweeted something in January that was actually like a Bitcoin transaction or something like that. I wrote a blog post basically taking apart the argument. That got more hits on my blog than everything else that I had ever written combined. Right. And the thing that showed me was that like people are pretty ignorant about Bitcoin. Like that article was so full of flaws. It said that there was some sort of like identity confirmation code within a Bitcoin transaction, which makes no sense. There's no such thing. And that this 8-letter thing was it. The service that that the author pointed to was actually like a proof of existence type site. And it had nothing to do with identifying yourself. People were going through on like our politics on like Reddit and saying, oh, look at this transaction that it's linked to. And like, if you go 8 transactions down, you'll find something that was like $3 million. Ridiculous, right? Like the general ignorance of how Bitcoin works, what it does, how you're supposed to, or how it gets used, what it can do is completely mind-boggling to me. How much people want to believe that it's this like weird thing that you can blame almost anything on. For me, that's the story of the week, is the ignorance of the general public with regard to Bitcoin.
I agree, Jimmy. I saw that article and I read it, and I also thought, basically, just from like a logical perspective, why does Spicer copy and then paste that key? For what purpose? Was he like, is it an address? Like if it was an address, you'd be like, oh, he copied it to, send it some money. But it was like to prove him, like everyone knows he's Spicer. He's on TV every day. It just made no sense. But yeah, it was a great article. Good job,
Wrong.
Jimmy. Wrong.
That was the nuclear code.
Well, I love the nuclear codes. There's another article out that says Trump has a red button on his desk, and when he pushes it, someone brings him a Coke. But funny story. But I don't have a prediction or story of the week. I didn't write anything. Totally unprepared. I tried to beat Ganon in Zelda today. I got killed 2 or 3 times. It was really embarrassing. I live streamed it. I'm not so sure that live streaming video games is a good idea. But not much else to say. I want to thank our 315 viewers for thumbs upping the show and for watching it live with us. I'm going to go check out the chat, see all the funny things you guys said. It's been a fun week with Bitcoin. Obviously, it goes up crazy like this. You wish you had more. That's pretty common among all of us. You also wish that you never sold any, but every once in a while, you just got to sell some. So don't kick yourself too hard. And don't feel bad you didn't buy Ethereum at $1, seeing it go up to $100 because nobody else did either, but somebody did, and hats off to them.
Man, if I
But
didn't sell all that Bitcoin for rent, I'd be the richest homeless guy in DC right now.
I know, and see, that's the thing is you got the value out of having a roof over your head, and sometimes you got to make sells like that because we can't just live on Bitcoin alone. But maybe someday.
It's funny too discovering Bitcoin because we're all used to fiat money and inflation and be like, oh, spend it now instead of later. And then when you get Bitcoin, you spend it, and you look back and you're like, oh shit. So it's kind of funny, like trying to get used to that too.
It teaches you to save.
Sound money. That's what sound money does.
Yep.
It's changing the way we spend our money, but
These
it's
are the time
also
preference.
it's also changing our time preference because we're running out of time. And we're out of time. Until next time. Bye bye.